It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here. Today we're going to be talking with the folks from NARF. We'll tell you about that when we come back with Jim Williams and Tom Smith. Be right back. Get your pen. Welcome back. Appreciate you tuning in this week to Veterans Issues. We're going to be talking about some veterans issues, some military, and some people who are civil service employees working for the federal government. And we're going to be talking with Tom Smith and Jim Williams, who are with NARF. I'm going to get this right, sorry, National Active Retired Federal Employees. So it stands for, that's NARFE, and welcome to the show, Tom.
Hey.
Good to see you. Jim.
Thank you.
Good to have you back. Y'all could be co-hosts on here. You've been on here. Well, every year we come on here talking about it, and you never come out here saying things are good. You always come out here saying, we got things to worry about. And I know what you're talking about because I deal with it on the state level a lot with what happens down in Montgomery. We may hit that at the end of it. You got to think about that. If you got anything to worry about down there, we'll need to talk about that. But mainly, you've got some concerns, and either one of y'all can address this, the concerns that you have out there now, and I think a lot of it has to do with the budget that is or ain't or going to be, might be, or whatever is happening in Washington. What's going on that?
Tom?
Now this I need to let everybody know this. If you work for the depot, you work for the post office, anything that, or you're retired, especially you retirees out there, they need to pay attention to what we're talking about here, right?
Yes. And Tom, you want to talk about NARF for just a second? There?
Yes, I would like to say just quickly that NARF is your advocate in Washington. Okay. And with all the things that are coming up, and Jim's going to address some of those, we are here for you. We are your advocate. We're your source of information. I'd like to just point out a couple of things. We got the NARF magazine that everybody gets that's a member. Mm-hmm. We also have this that Jim has recently created and puts out that keeps you up to abreast on the legislative items. We also have the Federation newspaper that goes to every member. And we meet at the DeSoto Pastime at Anniston Army Depot the third Thursday, is that right, Jim? Fourth Thursday of every month, except for November and December, and we're meeting this Thursday. And our guest this week's going to be Karen Roper from right here in Anniston, our Calhoun County Revenue Commissioner.
Good.
Meet at 10:45.
Now, and we want to address the concerns that are on the table right now, Jim, that we need to be concerned with. Tom's told us that they're going to be up there advocating for us and fighting for us, but and I say us because this is me. I'm retired, so.
Well, let me make a couple of quick points. This is a dangerous time for all federal employees, retirees, military, civilian, doesn't matter. There's been a trend for some time, and it's continuing, and that's towards cutting benefits. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't matter whether you're military or civilian. I'm retired Navy as well as retired civil service.
Bless you.
But one of the things that I want to emphasize here is the proposals in the President's budget for 2018. And that's what Congress is wrestling with now. And will be for, we don't know exactly how long. Mm-hmm. There are two particular kinds of proposals that I think both civilians and military retirees particularly need to be concerned about. One of them is either eliminating or reducing COLAs, cost of living allowances. Mm-hmm. That affects both military and civilian retirees, Social Security, people who are on disability, all of those things. From the civilian standpoint, the President's budget has talked about eliminating COLAs altogether for people who are under the FERS system, the new civilian retirement system since the mid-'80s. For people who retired under the old system, the CSRS system, they're talking about decreasing that COLA by 0.5% per year until it phases out. Well, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. But if you start looking at what the effect of that is, a CSRS, an average CSRS retiree would lose about $13,000 over 10 years and about $380,000 over 40 years. For a FERS employee, retiree, it'd be about $23,000 over 10 years and almost $500,000 over 40 years.
About twice as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, people out there that's watching this say, well, I'm not retired, I'm not active duty, I'm not working. How does that affect me? Well, here's what they need to think about. When it take more money away from me, that's less money I might spend on a loaf of bread. The less bread that's sold, the higher the price of the bread. And it goes on with it. The milk, the gas, everything is based upon volumes. So when we start talking about cutting any group, COLA, anything that you're talking about that might take away from the community, it affects everybody. So this is not just for those that are retired.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I just, yesterday, I ran across an interesting statistic in connection with that. Annuity income, pension income, has a multiplier effect of about 2.21 in terms of the larger economy. Yeah. So for every dollar a retiree gets, there are about $2.25 of economic activity generated. If you just take federal employee retirees, civil service retirees in Alabama, that comes out to about, I think it was about $4.5 billion of economic impact. So when you start shaving that down, it does have an effect on the community as a whole.
Yeah. We just went through this in our last legislative session in Montgomery. The legislature cuts the Department of Veterans Affairs cuts our general funds. It cuts our funds for the GI Bill. Well, the Alabama GI Bill goes to Gadsden State, to Ayers, to all these, Auburn and UAB, and all these different schools receive federal dollars, matching dollars. And so these legislatures, when they cut it, they don't realize they're just cutting their own funds off. These federal dollars are. We got a woman up here that they brought in $13 million extra one year, $13 million into Calhoun County area, just by filing claims. Now that's $13 million they don't have to build, but they look at us as like a welfare thing. We it's like when we send these people to Washington, they don't think about, and to Montgomery, they don't think about the bigger picture, and they don't come to you guys and say, what do y'all think before we introduce this bill, do they? When's the last time that happened?
No, they don't do it. Yeah. We go to them. In fact, we have people on the Hill all the time that are over there bending the ears of the staff and congressmen to let them know where our position is.
We got less than a minute on this segment. Wouldn't it be nice if your congressman or your senators would call you up and say, hey, Jim or Tom, we saw some legislation come across my desk. It had to do with retirees, annuities, and things like that. What do you think we should do on that? When's the last time you got a call like that?
It's been a while.
Been a while? I figured it out. I think I knew the answer to that, but they do that with the military and the retirees. They do it with veterans. They do it with the Veterans Bill, but the last person they talk to along the line is our Secretary of Veterans Affairs. He's Dr. Silverman's last person they talk to after he's already done his thing. We're gonna take a break here while we can and come back, and we're going to talk about some more things that you folks out there should be paying attention to, because it does affect everyone. We're going to go to a break. Come back, talk more with Jim and Tom. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. We're talking to Jim Williams and Tom Smith with NARF, and we're talking about benefits that could be at risk right now, and it affects a lot of people. So when we left, we were talking about, I took us to Montgomery, what some of the things I worry about, but what is the next biggest concern you got?
Well, let me highlight one, which sounds like kind of a stretch, but one of the proposals, in fact, the bill has moved through the House and is going through the Senate now, has to do with current postal retirees having to pay into Medicare in order to be able to keep their federal health insurance eligibility. Now, that's about $134 out of pocket for an individual, or $268 for a couple. That wasn't part of the bargain when they signed up. Mm-hmm. So, they're basically going to have to pay that much extra just to get what they were promised up front. Mm-hmm. That only affects about 76,000 people. But the big concern that we have with that is the precedent that it sets. This would be the first time that Congress has actually gone back and said, we were only kidding.
Yeah.
And that's the real concern that we have, because again, if Congress can change the rules after the fact, after you've retired, on what you're going to get or how much it's going to cost you, then they can do it to anybody.
Yeah. Well, Tom, what Jim was talking about, there's something that always bothered me was advocating. I advocate on behalf of veterans, but the veteran, any benefits that he or she may receive are benefits earned. You don't get benefits just because you're poor or because
That's a good point.
You've already paid for them.
Right.
And if I go out there like Jim was talking about, and I work to work, I go in, I get up those early hours and I stay late and all this stuff, and thinking that I'm going to have this, and I only, now that somebody's talking about giving me this, it bothers me that we elect people to go and that they don't realize what they're doing, but stuff that we've already paid for, so to speak. You know, when we got a new cemetery for veterans down in Alabama, they said free burial. No, they paid for it. They've already paid for it long ago. You don't get anything. We don't give free nothing, but it doesn't cost you anything now to be buried. But when you raised that right hand and took the oath and went in to serve this country, you paid for your burial, and that's what I'm getting to. So it's got to you guys you do this all the time, advocating for the
Right.
for the retirees, for us guys and girls. And
Yeah, when you're hired in, you expect that what they told you were going to get, you were going to get. But after you've spent your 30 years, you can't go back and undo that. You can't go back and say, well, I'm not going to work for you, I'm going to work for somebody else.
yeah, well, this just recently, you know, we had in this thing, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs was going to cut unemployability. They're looking at it like a benefit or whatever, and that fit me because, and my bills are structured at my income. You know, I've got an old saying, so I wish I could afford to live like I live now. but if somebody cuts my income, my creditors don't cut my what I owe. You know,
Obligation, that's
so
right.
so you got to have people like you guys that's out there fighting for it. And a lot of female retirees, they don't take it. It seems like us old hairy-legged guys are the only ones that we always talk about. We're talking about male and female in this situation that you guys are doing right here. And you said post office, man. That's a lot of people in our area.
Yeah.
What's the next thing on the?
Well, you
agenda?
wanted to put up our contact information, I
Yeah.
think.
I think we got it on the screen
It's
right
on the
here.
screen,
Can you
and,
see my hand right here?
We
like
are
man,
having a meeting. We are having a meeting this very Thursday.
and that would be
at,
what date?
Minnesota
Because we're
Pastime.
taping.
It is the 22nd,
There you go.
June 22nd
At what time?
at 10:45.
And you go through the main gate out there at the depot, and you
Well,
show
you don't
your
really
li-
go through the main gate. You just go through
Well,
the
I mean, you go
checkpoint.
to that first
Yeah.
entry point.
You
and show
don't
your
have to have
license,
any
ID.
special, no special ID
And then
or
you
anything.
take a ride at the first ride after you get out there, and you'll be, if you don't slow down, you'll run right into
Yeah,
it.
your driver's license will get you in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anybody can come hear what's going on.
Anybody, yeah, anybody.
And I'd suggest that anybody that's in this viewing area that's retired, we got folks watch over in Birmingham. We don't need them to come all the way down here in Birmingham, but it wouldn't hurt them. But those folks that are watching down here in Northeast Alabama, this would be a good time to find out where you stand, and the people there to answer the questions, right?
One thing I might mention, Tom, so this is a newsletter that we just started doing
Yeah.
on legislation. Anybody who's a member of NARF in the state of Alabama
Right.
that has an email address will automatically get that.
Yeah.
And we're trying to put a lot of good information
I got
into
one
that.
last night, email on a newsletter. So it is good. I'm leaving out. I want to make sure I got I got some things I want to talk about, but I want to make sure I got your high points that we talked about.
Well, the only other thing I might mention, and again, this is one of the other areas of cuts is Medicaid.
Okay.
And a lot of people because they're not on Medicaid, they have no idea how important that is in terms of the health care
But who pays it?
structure. Yeah, yeah. But if Medicaid gets cut in the way that they're talking about, rural hospitals in Alabama, a lot of them are going to close.
Mm-hmm.
And the effect of that is going to be that people are going to die because it's going to take longer to get to another facility.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, doctors are not going to become available. So people who are working, who aren't on Medicaid, are going to have to take more time off from work. They're going to have expense traveling a greater distance to be able to get the care that they need.
Yeah.
So that's, again, an area that really is going to affect everybody.
Including veterans.
Including veterans, very much so.
Well, these, I watched now what we're talking about here today, the budget, we don't know where it is because as you turn on the TV, it could be before August, it could be in December. We don't know when this is going to happen. We just need people to pay attention to what's going on because yesterday I was listening on C-SPAN and there's a balancing act between the Affordable Care Act when whatever happens to it and the budget. They weigh into two, which cart and the horse, which one goes first, the budget or the health care thing. So I'm concerned on the health care side because it does affect some veterans. Absolutely. It does affect some veterans, and we have great care now. If you're a disabled veteran, you don't have a whole lot to worry about like that, but there's a lot of veterans out there that are not drawing disability that fall into this trap, so to speak.
One thing I'd emphasize, legislators say they don't hear from their constituents.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for all of us to contact legislative representatives. And best is call. If you can't visit their office, call. Call counts a lot more than an email or on a petition or something. But call them and tell them your story, because a lot of times the legislators are looking for not just your position on the policy.
Right.
They're looking for a story that they can turn around and use on the floor, or they can use with their other constituents to say, well, this is why this is important. So
well, I'll tell you, I've had my congressman is the 3rd District, Mike Rogers. I invited Mike on the show the other day, and I've talked to his public affairs about having him on here to answer some questions because I rely on my congressman wherever I live. That's the person that's a representative. That's the person you send to the bank with your check to represent you or whatever. I sent him, I voted for him, sent him to Washington, D.C. So I need him to hear my concerns. Yes. That's it, because he can't know what my concerns are unless I tell him. Now, I always tell folks to email. You got some kind of record that you did something. So if you say I didn't contact you, here's my email. I even got a way to see if it's been opened. So I do that. Then I've always got my iPhone there ready to record if I'm on the house phone, so I can get both, and I got the speakerphone going on the other way. So there's ways to record that, but they do hear from us. But we run out of time. Leave anything off for 30 seconds, so we need to
just encourage people to join NARF, especially active employees. We need active employees, and even if you're not eligible to be a member, we encourage you to do what we have recommended and contact your Congress.
Yeah, and you don't have to remember any of those phone numbers out here, just my phone number, and I get calls all the time. So call me and I'll put you in touch with Tom and Jim. I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Got that? See how we did that? We're going to have this down. We got to go to a break. Come back. I got news that you can use. Stay where you are. Get that pen. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. I appreciate Tom and Jim coming on and talking about NARF. This is important stuff, folks. It's with some tipping points in our country right now, and depending on what Congress does with the budget, we can either benefit from it or we can be in trouble. And if one of us is in trouble, all of us in trouble, because it's got a downhill effect. So pay attention to what's going on out there, and call me if you need that information to join NARF, or if you just like to go out to a meeting and see what they do, talk to some people, get some answers. Just give me a call, and I'll be glad to put you in touch with them. Now next week, my guest is going to be John Merrill, the Secretary of State, and I don't know what all we're going to talk about, but he's a great man. We got a lot of things to talk about with the voting things and whatever, but I don't know what we'll be covering. If you've got something you'd like me to ask the Secretary of State, just give me a call, and I'll be glad to do that on our next week's show. Now, we got the new hotline. I'm going to tell you now, I got a call yesterday. Well, I got an email. I want to know if it worked. And all I do is ask you to call it to find out if it, just for yourself, just give this number a call, and it's 1-855-948-2311. Everybody needs that number because it's another line if you know someone a veteran that's suicidal, and or your neighbor or whatever that's a veteran that's that way. That's the number to call. But it's not just for that. It's for any kind of benefits, anything to do, all things VA. This is the new number that the Secretary just installed. It's 1-855-948-2311. And it is a number at the White House just for veterans. And So if you got a question about veterans needs, that's the number you call. You don't even have to call me to get there. I gave you the number, so you can call it now. We're going to build, if you see some movement up around the Centennial Memorial Park, you'll see the construction is going to be building the new Alabama Firefighters Memorial. That's the official memorial for the state of Alabama. Any firefighter that lost their life in the line of duty will have their name engraved on that black granite. It'll be facing the law enforcement memorial. All of these are the official memorials for the state of Alabama, and we're very proud to have them here. Just wish we didn't have to put any names on them. If you got a wheelchair out there that still works, batteries are good. I need them. I have veterans that need wheelchairs, but they're not qualified through the VA system, but or Medicaid or Medicare or whatever. But they need a chair to get up, go to their mailbox, and go up and down the street, visit, and that kind of thing. So you got one. Some people have stepped up to the plate and helped me out, and they've been put to use. I don't have any left now, but if you got some, help me out there. If you know of a young veteran and in need of transportation, got a good case for him, he's financially strapped or whatever, but he's young and he's a veteran, need transportation, and I know someone that would like to help him out. So if you help him or her out, so let me know if you got somebody that fits into that. The law enforcement tag, I talk about it on here a lot, and the reason I do, the revenue from that tag is what we build these memorials with up in the park. And that tag is, anyone can have that tag. You don't have to be in law enforcement, but it does say to whoever's following you that the person behind the wheel of that car appreciates though it died in the line in duty, and that's that law. So when you go get your tag to be renew your tag, ask them for that you look at the law enforcement tag, and it goes to a good cause. Oh man, we run out of time here. They tell me in the control room, but I'm down to 30 seconds here, so I'm going to have to. This week's salute's going to go out to all those who, and this is from the nursing homes to whatever. Some people tell me they go down to the Colonel Robert L. Howard home down in Pell City every Thursday and play bingo. What a deal. And for all those people, everybody that drives the vans for the veteran, that assists veterans every way, this salute's for you. We'll see you next week with the Secretary of State